This is his second off season. Mike Vrabel told us you can feel his presence when he walks in the building. You want that from a quarterback who's trying to earn, not this year, the backup job, but maybe potentially be your starter down the road.
And the Los Angeles Angels pitcher Shohei Ohtani is the only player in MLB history to have 40 home runs and 10 wins in the same season as a starter in the Angels' rotation. And the Arizona Coyotes have a letter of intent to purchase land in Mesa, Arizona for a new arena. After playing in Mullet Arena the last season, they're looking to stay permanently in the area with the new arena in the next few seasons. You're listening to 102.5 and 106.3 The Game.
For more, follow us on Twitter at 1025 The Game or visit thegamenashville.com. Live from the Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical Studios. WPRT FM Pegram, WPUC HD2 Laverne.
Ross Chastain will be first to finish in the Ally 500 at Nashville Super Speedway.
Nashville's exclusive home for NASCAR. 102.5 and 106.3.
Checkered flag is in the air. Man, this is a win in the cup race.
The Game.
A Cromwell media station.
Nashville.
The suit is in the building.
Acknowledge me.
Are you ready? Ready? This is Chase McCabe on Nashville's best sports talk. 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Chase McCabe, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Let me talk to you. Yeah, alongside Junie Riddle, Nick Frazier on the ones and twos. Junie going to hang out for a little bit today. Junie, what's up?
Glad to be here. Good Thursday. Preseason kicks off tonight. Some C.J. Stroud action.
Dude, we do have games tonight.
Yeah, we
forgot
do.
about that. I am so off this week on my days. Like, my days are so mixed up. Like, I thought today was Wednesday. I thought yesterday was Tuesday. Like, I've missed a day somewhere. I don't know what's going on.
I'm in the same boat. Last 2 days, because normally I'm in the office Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Me and my wife, we switch off taking care of the baby at home, and this week she had to be in the office on Tuesday and Wednesday, so I'm on back-to-back days, playing dad duty at home.
Yeah.
So I'm definitely off as well, like thinking that this is Friday, because normally my second day watching him is Thursday, so a little bit disappointing on my half of that.
So training camp continues today as the Titans will finally open their preseason schedule on Saturday at noon against the Chicago Bears. Literally last weekend I was on the way to Wrigley Field and drove by Soldier Field, so looks like it's good and ready to go. But cool architecture there. But they will play on Saturday. Terrell Williams will be the acting head coach. We'll talk a little bit more about that later because I know he talked to the press corps today about that opportunity. But where I want to start with you is, the biggest – I did a couple of different shows. This is preview time. So a couple of different markets had me on to talk about the Titans. And they're like, what is the biggest concern for the Titans? And every time I would laugh and go, the offensive line. That is where everything will start, and the offensive line will be just if it's good, then I think the offense can be good. If it's not, then we probably are going to be talking about some problems. So where are they to this point? I think we feel like we know the five that they're going to have with Andre Dillard at left tackle, Peter Skoronski at left guard, Aaron Brewer at center, Daniel Brunskill at right guard, and Chris Hubbard at right tackle, at least for the first 6 games. I can't sit here and tell you that I feel good about that at all because I just have no idea. And Mike Vrabel has not you and I were just talking about this before we went on the air. Mike Vrabel has not really said who's going to play, who's not going to play. I hope this offensive line gets a half. I don't care who's at quarterback. I hope this offensive line gets to play a half because they need to play. So that, to me, needs to be a priority number one. I don't know if Vrabel's going to go that route or not.
No, and I definitely think they should. And when you think about it, going into the season last year, I know the offensive line was horrific due to injury, but the offensive line going into the season for the Titans last season was significantly better. I mean, you had Nate Davis, Ben Jones, Taylor Lewan. And so I think where this offensive line kind of stands is somewhere in the middle between those two. And again, like, I felt going into the season that the offensive line was going to be an issue going into 2022. But obviously with injury, it made it significantly worse. So I just think where these guys are now, they need the reps. They need to at least have some playing time. Because what do we always hear about offensive line from the experts, from the coaches? It's about being a cohesive unit and working together collaboratively. And so these guys need to get in. And also, the Bears have come out and said that they're going to be, playing their starters. And so, their defensive line, they got a lot of new guys. A name that we're familiar with, DeMarcus Walker. They just signed Yannick Ngakoue, who played on the Vikings last year. And so,
I still don't like their D-line. I think it's
still one of their weaknesses, but I feel like they've done a bit to beefing it up, and especially with the new guys that they've added, if they're going to play those guys. I mean, I feel like that's a good matchup. Got a lot of new guys with the Titans, a lot of new guys with the Bears, and it seems to be both teams' weakness. So I'd really like to see ones go against ones, at least, like you said, for the first half. It would be a good matchup to kind of gauge where this unit really is.
Everybody's asking about the offensive line, and Derrick Henry was even asked about the progress of the offensive line the other day.
Derrick, you got a lot of new faces on this offensive line. How's the cohesiveness been with that group as you go on practice after practice here this first couple of weeks?
Yeah, it's been good, man. Guys working. I'm trying to get better. Working great collectively. It's a new group, and just trying to get used to our culture and how we do things and playing to our standard. I feel like those guys are trying to do it every day and are getting better every day. And that's all you should want.
Now, look, Derrick gave a nice answer like you would expect him to. I don't expect him to get up there and go, yeah, you know what, they freaking suck. I mean, but, he's going to say the right things, and he did there. I don't think there's really any way to know until they get game action. Yes, they put the pads on, and also – next week when they're practicing against the Vikings, when they practice against the Patriots, just going up against another team. Now, what I will say is you can't tell me for a second that there's not a benefit to going up against one of the best defensive lines in the league, because that's what they've been doing.
And that's why it's so hard to tell, and it's been a discussion, for the last couple of weeks of training camp. Is it really because this defensive front is so dominant, or is this offensive line just that bad? And to kind of go back to the Derrick Henry thing, last year, even though the offensive line was very suspect, at least the strength of the offensive line was run blocking. I feel like, as much crap as Dennis Daly got, he was a much better run blocker than he was a pass protector. Now we're looking at guys that are kind of the opposite. A lot of these guys are more better pass protectors in a run-heavy offense. So how is that going to affect Derrick Henry in this offense going forward? It's still to be unknown. So
it's a great question.
I think the hope is that this defensive front, which is known to be the strength of this team, is just that good, and hopefully this offensive line will kind of grow and collectively get better as camp goes on.
Here's my thing on what you just said. I feel like that there might be a little bit of, okay, we know pass pro has to get better because Tannehill or whoever's back there needs time to throw. So can we sacrifice a little bit of the run protection because we know that Derrick can make his own holes, even though there should be some concern with that as he continues to age. But I kind of feel like they've robbed Peter to pay Paul a little bit because they know that they have Derrick Henry and he's not your average back. So he might be able to, even though the run blocking might not be as good as it was, he could be able to compensate for that.
Well, and I think, some of the moves they made in the offseason can also, subsidize some of those issues. Like a guy like Tajay Spears, I know that Ward has been making a lot of headlines in camp as well. Having a change of pace back that you can, actually rely on. I know Dontrell Hilliard, he was pretty solid at that, but, he dealt with a lot of injury issues.
Yeah.
So hopefully, some of these guys that they have brought in to kind of, take Derrick Henry out of the mix, limit some of those touches, can be enough change of pace to where it kind of keeps some of these defenses off a little bit rather than just really honing in on Derrick Henry and the downhill run game that he provides. So it'll be interesting to see how it goes, but for me, this offensive line, it needs to show significant improvements if this offense wants to go where it needs to go.
So who concerns you the most on the offensive line?
Andre Dillard.
Me too.
Andre
We're
Dillard,
on the same page.
Hands down.
Because more so because of the position than the guy himself.
Yeah, and well, they picked up Chris Hubbard, and I'd say he's really the one on the offensive line that is he's more of a better run blocker than he is. All those years with Cleveland and Pittsburgh, that was really his primary assignment to do. But when you look at a guy like Andre Dillard getting bullied by Arden Key in practice consistently, I know he's won a few reps here and there, but you definitely want that to be better. And especially after last season, especially after the money that they're giving this guy and really kind of giving him a chance. I know Arden Key's making a lot of headlines, but we're still talking about a rotational piece that's getting his first opportunity to be a 3-down edge rusher. So I need to see a little bit more from Andre Dillard to make that jump. And if not, they need to consider moving him inside because he has playing experience at guard. You know,
Teron Davenport asked Mike Vrabel the other day about Andre Dillard.
How has Andre Dillard seemed to kind of settle in? He has some good reps today, and he seems like he's stacking some good games.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you liked the day that he had, Teron. I appreciate the evaluation. I do think that he's gotten more comfortable just being here, and I think he's gotten in better playing shape. I think you can go and run and do sprints and everything, but it's a long day for an offensive lineman. It's a lot of individual, and then you come over here and run some team reps and then 2 minutes. So I think the biggest thing has just been his conditioning and confidence to go out there and block these guys. And it looks like he's improved each day.
Well, I mean, look, if you believe the head coach, then that should make you feel better. But again, he's not going to get up there and say, "Oh no, he sucks." So I think it's all about the game reps.
Vrabel has been here long enough to where we can really tell that, sometimes I feel like for players that have a lot more production, that are more, solidified in their position, he's going to kind of downgrade their hype a little bit just to humble them. And then you can also tell when he's trying to hype a guy up who is clearly struggling. That's exactly what he's doing right now.
Sure, you know who he likes and who he doesn't like. Yeah. It's very easy to tell. Like Julio Jones, he didn't like Julio Jones.
Yeah.
You could just tell. David Long at times. And I mean, those guys aren't here anymore because they just didn't vibe with the culture that Vrabel was putting out there. 615-737-1025 is our phone and text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. How do you feel about the offensive line to this point going into the first preseason game? And we were just talking about the run game and how it might affect that. Beyond Derrick Henry, how do we feel about that position right now? Junie and I will discuss that next. Junie Riddle in today. Chase McCabe, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
He knows the ins and outs of the Titans and isn't afraid to give his opinion.
Traylon Burks needs a massive offseason.
He's Jonathan Hutton of Outkick.
I don't see how they make a move without going to Ryan Tannehill.
Catch him every Monday at 10:30 on Chase McCabe and every Wednesday at noon on Caroline, Willie, and D-Mace. Hutton is on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Calling all Nashville Sounds baseball fans. You know that 312 Pizza Company in Germantown is the best place to be before or after a Sounds game, but this season, it gets even better. Stop by 312 Pizza Company before or after any Nashville Sounds home game with your day of ticket and get a free old-style beer. That's right, you get a free old-style beer from 312 Pizza just for watching Sounds baseball, only redeemable with purchase. See you at 312 Pizza Company all baseball season long. 312 Pizza Company, a proud sponsor of your Nashville Sounds.
This year, Boys and Girls Club of Middle Tennessee celebrates its 120th anniversary. Through time, BGCMT continues to evolve to enable all young people, especially those who need us most, to reach their full potential as productive, caring, and responsible leaders. Because of your continued support, BGCMT has remained strong and is committed to supporting our youth and solidifying our mission and culture in new exciting ways for 120 years. Visit bgcmt.org today.
Hi, I'm Chase McCabe with your PBR Minute. The PBR Team Series Nashville Stampede Days returns to Nashville August 18th through the 20th at Bridgestone Arena. You can get your tickets at PBR.com or Ticketmaster.com. And while it hasn't been the start of the season at 0-5 that head coach Justin McBride is looking for, one bright spot is a newcomer, three-time champion Silvano Alves, who has shown out to this point.
Well, I've been really impressed in the fact that he knows, most of the starters are out with injury. He's really the only starter that's healthy enough to compete right now. And he hasn't given up on that. You know, he hasn't said, oh, I'm just riding with a bunch of young guys right now. I'm just going to mail it in till my guys get back. He's going out there, he's competing, he's trying to make the other guys better.
Again, the PBR Nashville Stampede Days coming to Nashville at Bridgestone Arena August 18th through the 20th. Just get your tickets now at PBR.com or Ticketmaster.com.
If this were a Reese's TV ad, you'd be staring at a Reese's Peanut Butter Cup. And sure, my voice is peanut buttery smooth, but still, you need to see the peanut butter cups, right? No? I can really just say Reese's and you'll go get some? Okay, Reese's. 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 Really working, actually. Reese's. Reese's. I'm on to something. Reese's. Reese's. Reese's.
Every day we are live and local.
You need to give Ryan Tannehill a 2-year extension.
There haven't been too many coaching changes for the Predators.
And your source for Nashville sports.
I think that's what the Titans need.
Players who can score.
We are Nashville's best sports talk. 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app. You're listening to Chase McCabe.
He did not want to rehearse, and he wanted to leave as soon as possible.
On 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
What about the running back position? How have you seen some of the guys behind Henry start to show up?
Well, we'll see when the games come. I think that they're all doing some good things, and the special teams element is going to be huge, and they're all trying to find a role, and I think they're working hard at it. Protecting and trying to step in there. Saw Jay Ward today. Defense kind of had an overload pressure, and Jay Ward had to try to come back and save the day and stood in there onto Nico. And, I don't know whether we'd have gotten it off or not, but Ryan threw it to Hop and completed it, on third down. So, again, their willingness to just react and play, and, that's what you're looking for when the game starts.
Mike Vrabel on the running back position. Chase McCabe, Junie Riddle here today, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. All of our training camp coverage presented by the Simmons Bank Open, Parman Energy, Cottle Vet Clinic, and the New Cumberland Development. And you just heard it right there. He was asked about the running back position in general behind Derrick Henry, and who did he bring up? Jonathan Ward. Whenever he singles out somebody like that in that way, it's typically a good thing. And that – I think right now I have Jonathan Ward on the 53-man roster.
I mean, I think he has to be. Tajay Spears is really unproven. Hassan Haskins, what we saw last year was a little bit lackluster, and we all know what he has kind of going on in his personal life. And from what I've seen on social media, Jonathan Ward has kind of been the surprise of camp. And if he can kind of be that supplement guy, and we'll see, through the preseason if he can be a factor on special teams, that will really help his case to make that final cut.
Yeah, and I'm curious, too, of how many backs they want to carry, because they don't typically carry a fullback anymore. So could they go with 4? Could they carry an extra tight end to kind of act as that H-back, fullback hybrid type? But right now I would say it's Henry, Spears, Ward, and then maybe Haskins, depending on – what his legal situation is.
But what about Chestnut and his ability to be a return man for this team?
And that's big too. You got to factor that in.
Because that could also, be in play with this team. I mean, we know how much they struggled last year trying to find a guy to lock down that position, and I felt like out of everybody last year, he was one of the better ones. So that will also be in the play. But I want to talk a little Tajay Spears here, because I really haven't heard a lot about him throughout this camp. Like, not a lot of splash, not a lot of headway. And so I'm really interested to see what they're going to do with him going into the Chicago game. I feel like I need to see him in game to make a true impact.
Oh, I 100% need to see him in game, and I have a feeling he's going to get a lot of carries this week. I would assume he would start. I mean, we know Derrick's not playing, so Derrick probably doesn't even go to Chicago. So I would assume he'll get the start. Maybe they'll mix some packages, with him and Ward or what have you. But I'm with you. I need to see him do some things. I heard Jared talking about it yesterday, that he kind of made the comparison when Chris Johnson first got here, and that you didn't see a whole lot out of him in the first couple of weeks of camp, and then that first preseason game he pops one, and everybody's like, oh, here we go. He didn't necessarily have to do that, but show me your pass catching ability, show me your running ability, show me why you were a third round pick, because that's the pick that everybody's kind of got a question mark on. when it comes to the Titans. So I need to see something, even though it's preseason. Look, I haven't been this hyped for a preseason game in a long time, but I am. Like, I'm going to sit and watch and evaluate because of quarterbacks, running backs, receivers, O-line, what have you. And Tajay Spears is a big part of that.
And so you said something there that, Derrick Henry is for sure not playing. I've seen a lot of teams, and this is something a bit different this year, that a lot of teams are playing their stars. Like Justin Fields in the starting Bears offense will be out there this Saturday. I know the Steelers are starting.
I could be wrong.
Their starters. And I'm seeing like Mac Jones is going to start tonight for the New England Patriots. So I don't know. I've been hearing a lot of things about, Tannehill doesn't need to play. Derrick Henry doesn't need to play. I'm seeing this the last couple years because these guys haven't made appearances in the preseason. Could this be something that they might need to change up on and get these guys some full reps to get them going a little bit before the season?
And you're 100% right. Look, just because I'm saying I don't think they're going to play, that's just based on what I've seen Vrabel do. I don't necessarily agree with it. In fact, I don't agree with it.
Yeah.
I actually think that he's been too cautious at times in the preseason. Do I want to see them play a whole half? No, not necessarily. No. But, come out and play a couple of series or the first quarter or what have you, and then turn it over to the other guys. And going back to our original conversation, especially with this offensive line being new, that I think there's some benefit to putting Tannehill in, for a series or two, Henry in for a series or two with these guys. I don't think he's going to do it, but if he did, I think it would be a pleasant surprise. Now D-Hop, I mean, there's some guys that I can take or leave if they play or not, but Tannehill, like even Henry, but Tannehill especially, I think a couple of series with this O-line wouldn't be a bad idea.
No, I don't think so either. And I feel like I heard Joe Rexford this morning say that Treylon Burks shouldn't play. I think Treylon Burks definitely should get some significant time in the preseason. I mean, we're talking about guys that are unproven yet. If you are an unproven player, even though Treylon Burks he's completely changed his body. He looks faster out there. He looks a lot more efficient. He is dominating camp rather than the contrary of last year of him sitting out due to his his asthma, adjusting to the weather here in Nashville. I get all of that. I get, he's poised for a breakout year, but we still need to see it. And he still needs to go out there. He still needs to get some reps. And a guy like D-Hop, who's in his 30s, even maybe Derrick Henry, I can get those, but I just still feel like it's good for them to get a little bit out there.
Yeah, and I think too, like if I'm the one putting the game plan together for the rest of the preseason, this is the game that I would put the starters in for a little bit, and then you're going to have joint practices the rest of the way. So I would understand if you don't.
That's perfect.
You don't have to, but this is the one where you could start Tannehill, maybe Henry, start Jeff on the D-line, just get him a little bit of work. It doesn't have to be very long. It could be a series or two, and then see how that looks, and then you can turn the keys over to Levis or Willis or whoever you want at quarterback and go from there. And then the rest of the preseason, they don't have to play because they're going to have the joint practices, and you can get more out of that than you would a preseason game.
So another position that I'm really intrigued to watch, and I feel like this isn't getting a lot of headway, is the tight end position.
Yeah.
Obviously, Chig, we were begging and calling for him to get more touches and looks last year. And he still finished, top of the statistics of receiving yards by the end of the year. That's how productive he was with his limited amount of playing time. So we're expecting him to have a good year. But after that, Trayvon Wesco, Josh Wiley, who they drafted in the 5th round, Alize Mack.
I like Mack. Mack's look good.
Did he play in the XFL or USFL this past year?
Ooh, I'd have to look that up.
I believe it was the XFL, but I'll double check.
Okay. I know he played in one of those, one of the spring leagues, XFL.
Yep.
So I'm really curious to see, which one of these guys are going to pop off the paper here in preseason as well. Because if something were to happen to Chig, that could be detrimental to this offense if they don't have somebody behind him ready to go.
Well, and see, that's the question of one, all right, are you keeping all 3 quarterbacks? I would say yes at this point. Okay, how many receivers do you want to keep? I think 6 at this point, especially if you have one that's a special teams element. Well, then it comes down to, do you want to carry an extra offensive lineman with uncertainty there, or are you comfortable with 8? And then do you carry 3 running backs, 4 running backs? You're not carrying the fullback, and then do you carry 3, 4 tight ends? I think at least 4 tight ends because you're not carrying the fullback.
Really?
And for me, obviously Chig, Josh Wiley, I would say Kevin Rader because he can kind of be the H-back kind of guy. And then right now, to me, it's between Alize Mack and Trevin Wesco.
That's it. Like I said, when it comes to the tight ends, I'm going to have to see him. I haven't been out at practice, so I can't sit here and say, one way or the other. I'm going to have to see it. But for me, I don't know. I think when I look at the 53-man breakdown, if you're going to add a player in one position, it's going to take away from another. I know I've been kind of touching off Joe Rexrode's, pre-camp 53-man, and I just don't think this team should have more than 3 running backs. And then when it comes to tight end, like you mentioned, if you use one more as like an H-back, like a primary blocking, I can get that. But I just don't want to take away from some of the depth in key positions like edge rusher or inside linebacker on the defensive end, because that's where these positions are coming from. So for me, I think some of the more interesting battles are these positions on offense that don't have as much depth. I know everyone's going to be talking about, backup quarterback and which wide receiver is going to, step up and be that 5th and 6th man. But it's going to be really interesting to see about tight end and running back, because those are really, really competitive right now. And somebody's going to need to step up to add that extra depth for this team in case of injury, later on this season.
Coming up next, we'll shift gears and check in on the Commodores. Andrew Allegretta, the voice of Vanderbilt football, will join us and kind of see how things are going at camp for them. We'll do that next. Chase McCabe, Junie Riddle in today, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
The sports talk doesn't end on Friday. Join Junie Riddle,
the guy that can come in and give us some good goal-scoring production.
And Nick Keiser,
another guy that I thought was interesting that got a 1-year deal.
Each Saturday morning at 9, it's Riddle and the Reporter on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Get a great deal on select Kubota equipment, the #1 rated tractor brand for durability and owner experience in the U.S. The versatile lineup is built to help you make the most of your land. Right now at participating dealers, get a Kubota compact tractor for 0 down, 0% APR for 84 months, plus save up to $800 on qualifying implements. Now through September 30th. See us or go to KubotaUSA.com/disclaimers for full disclaimer.
Visit Coleman Tractor, your local Kubota dealer in Clarksville, Nashville, Paris, and White House today.
Don't be surprised this week to see other jewelry store owners shopping at Genesis Diamonds. They'll be taking advantage of Genesis' most aggressive offer ever. All GIA diamond engagement rings marked down an extra 20% below Genesis' everyday price.
That's right. The vault is open, and we're selling the finest handcrafted diamond rings at rock bottom prices. Now for a very limited time.
The GIA is the world standard in diamond grading, certifying accuracy and documenting quality, so you can buy with confidence.
Every Genesis engagement ring is included in this event, from a half carat up to 20 carat stones.
All shapes, rounds, ovals, radiants, cushion cuts, pear shapes, emerald cuts, princess cuts. There has never been a better time to get an extreme value price on a GIA certified diamond, perfectly set in a gorgeous engagement ring. Hurry in for best selection. It's Genesis Diamonds GIA Diamond Extravaganza.
Save an extra 20% on these rare, precious diamond rings, now for a limited time. One per customer, please.
Exclusively at Genesis Diamonds, Green Hills and Cool Springs. See store for details.
Men, this is Evan Bass for the Tennessee Men's Clinic. If you're suffering with erectile dysfunction or other sexual health issues, you need to know that there is no one-size-fits-all treatment, because everyone's made differently. That's why our urologists and medical providers offer a broader array of treatment options and can even combine or adjust treatments for greater effectiveness. ED can result from aging, low testosterone, prostate issues, underlying medical conditions, and more. And understanding why you have ED is the first step in treating the condition. That's why you need to know your numbers and understand what other factors might be contributing, and then work with an expert to treat it. And that's where we shine. At the Tennessee Men's Clinic, we have protocols that are effective in nearly 90% of cases, which means we'll likely find the right treatment for you and you can get your sex life back. So call us. Your first appointment includes blood work and a medical consult. Call 615-208-9090 or go to TennesseeMen'sClinic.com. We have 2 offices to serve you, Midtown and Franklin.
Visit our website to learn more, including side effects. Treatments extra, results vary.
Hello, whoever it is going to be.
You want to weigh in on anything that we're talking about on today's show? Hit us up on our phone and text line at 615-737-1025, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com.
Chase McCabe on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game.
Chase McCabe, 102.5, 106.3 The Game, alongside Junie Riddle today. Nick Frazier on the ones and twos. Hard to believe, in just a few weeks, the Vanderbilt Commodores open their season at Dudley Field against Hawaii here in Nashville. And, of course, you can hear that right here on your new home for the Commodores, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. The man that'll be on the call, Andrew Allegretta, joins us now. Andrew, what's up, my friend? How are you?
I'm good, man. What's going on, guys?
I'm just counting down the days because, I mean, we got NFL preseason tonight, but, I mean, you got live bullets coming up on August 26th. I guess technically week 0, but Vandy will host Hawaii as they continue that series with them. But I know you've been at practices over the course of the last week or so. How's the squad looking to this point?
Yeah, on my way to practice as we speak. Squad looks, I think, pretty solid. It's always difficult to truly get that perfect, accurate gauge when you're going against yourself and you think you have X, but you don't really have anything to compare it to. I would give you, as I was thinking about it, Chase, kind of two positions to underline throughout the course of spring ball that have really impressed. One's probably not a surprise. One probably is. The wide receivers look great. I think there's a lot of depth there. And it's not just Will Shepherd, who could be one of the better wide receivers in the conference. You've got guys down the list, including local products that have been very, very good, whether it's Junior Sherrill out of Lipscomb or you've had Humphreys do a really good job out of CPA. Plus, there's a kid by the name of Richie Hoskins who's really impressing. He's kind of a slot wide receiver. I think they've got a lot of depth at that particular position. And then the defensive line has been pretty darn good as well. They've moved a few guys around. Nate Clifton has been a defensive end the past couple of years. He's on the inside of the line this year out of Brentwood Academy. He's been really good. His speed is kind of shining through on the inside. So, yeah, if that defensive line can be what they have shown so far in the preseason, that changes a lot for the defense.
Everything starts and ends at the quarterback position, as we know. A.J. Swan really impressed in his freshman year, but I'm always curious to see that leap between year 1 and year 2. And like you said, it's just practice, but what have you seen out of A.J. to this point?
It's almost like you read my column on the website, Chase, which I kind of was curious about the same thing too, right? To me, it's akin to whether it's Enrique Bradfield Jr. from a couple of years ago or insert baseball player here who bursts onto the scene and can hit the fastball, and then everybody else goes, okay, we'll throw him a curveball now. He's going to have a big highlighter around his name coming up this season. I think there's probably two things that give me a lot of confidence within it. First off is AJ's confidence. I said this in the column that I wrote for the website, but I'll say it again. Don't get it twisted with some of these guys. They're elite athletes. They've been elite athletes for a long time, multiple sports usually. They've got a lot of confidence in themselves. I mean, AJ started SEC games as a freshman. His first start was at Alabama. He believes in himself. So that's a good thing because you're going to get thrown some stuff that you're going to have to deal with, and you have to have confidence to play through it. And the second is he's humble enough to raise his hand and ask for help, which is something he was going through earlier in camp where he was struggling with some accuracy issues, raised his hand, asked for help from Joey Lynch, and they started to get that corrected. I would throw this as like a little aside of the conversation, which I learned talking to these guys, is you don't, it's almost like a golfer to an extent, maybe, or I don't know what the perfect comparison is, Chase, but you don't always talk about mechanics with quarterbacks for the risk of screwing them up. It's like these guys have had this throwing motion for their entire life. So you're more talking about, as a quarterback coach, coverages and the offense. And you don't really sit there and break down their mechanics. And the fact that AJ was said, my mechanics are off, please help me, is a sign of his humbleness to get stuff fixed and play at his top potential.
Talking to Andrew Allegretta, voice of the Vanderbilt Commodores. And, Ken Seals, too, is an interesting one. Didn't see game action last year, but he's somebody that I've kind of paid attention to as well, of how he fits into all of this. So what have you seen from him?
I think the best thing, Chase, about all of this is, unlike last year, you had two quarterbacks last year with completely divergent styles. And I'm not taking anything away from Mike Wright. He obviously was huge in helping us get those 2 victories versus Kentucky and Florida. Tremendous player, more of an athlete, runner, made a few things happen with his arm. But AJ and Ken are very similar. So you can really hone in on the style of offense that you want to run if you're offensive coordinator Joey Lynch. And if for some reason AJ gets hurt, which again, he had injuries last year with concussions, like they're going to have to be mindful of that. And he's got to show some durability. That's AJ. But you got someone waiting that had nearly a 2,000-yard season a couple of years ago during the COVID season and plays just like your starter. That's kind of a reassuring thing for everybody on offense, that you can kind of go in to a situation, if AJ were to go down, where you can play the same way.
We're talking to Andrew Allegretta, voice of Vanderbilt football and baseball. Andrew, Vanderbilt finished strong in football last year and was one game away from making a bowl. I'm looking at the schedule to open up the season this year, and there's a lot of favorable matchups. Would you say this is one of the more exciting Vanderbilt teams going into the season that fans are anticipating for this year?
Yeah, that's a good question. And I would concede frequently that I don't have all of the context to, back when the Franklin years were cooking there for a couple of seasons. But there's a lot of optimism. I would also, in part because I think I recognize where the fan base is mentally, probably some trepidation going into it. It's like, a little bit of Lucy dropping the football down, and is she going to pull it away from Charlie Brown? I get that, because you've got a schedule that lines up through 6 games where if everything lines up, you could win them all. Having said that, I don't know. I've got no earthly idea. But the potential and the optimism is there. And I would tell you, not just trying to, be the guy that sings the praises from the inside, there's a lot of confidence internally. And there's a lot of confidence that they can do damage in just about every game on their schedule. And, I think if you got them in a moment of honesty, they would recognize what the Georgia matchup presents to them. But outside of that, I don't really think that this group is going to go into games unsure about their ability to win. And that is straight from the top. That is Clark Lee. That is Clark after practice every day reminding these guys, make decisions. And this is a quote. He told him after practice one day, make decisions to help the team play 13, 14, or 15 games. That's where they are mentally. He didn't say 12. He said 13, 14, or 15. So I know that they go into this season way more confident than a lot of people externally would think about them.
Now, Andrew, I'm not from Nashville, but from an outsider perspective, I feel like nowadays Vanderbilt is kind of taking a turn when it comes to their athletics. They're making improvements to the stadium. They're adding more resources to boost the athletic programs. But we've seen a lot of change in college football the past week. How has Vanderbilt reacted to this, and what is kind of their game plan going forward to adjust to this new college football climate?
Wow. Gigantic, extra large question. I think the first thing that gets underscored when all of this stuff happens is, again, just to take what Clark Lee is saying, Vanderbilt is pretty happy that it's a charter member of the SEC. And nothing is promised and nothing is guaranteed for forever, right? No one would have thought the Pac-12 or 10 or whatever would have twisted the way that it did. So nothing is guaranteed. But in today's climate, to be a member of the Southeastern Conference provides you stability that other places aren't so fortunate to have. So I think you start with that. And then from there, I think Vanderbilt, and I say this like with love and with care. I think Vanderbilt has a sense of self and a sense of identity these days about how it wants to achieve athletically. And you've seen that with investments to the facilities. You've seen that with investments toward the Anchor Impact Fund, which is Vanderbilt's collective, which didn't have to get shut down for IRS purposes like Texas A&M. We've got a sense of self, and that I actually think is a really good thing. It doesn't guarantee victories, but it does mean that you're not bouncing around and making knee-jerk reactions every time something around you happens. That doesn't mean you're not aware. Candace is very aware. Clark is very aware of the landscape as it shifts and what he's got to deal with from a recruiting standpoint and what Candace has to deal with from an administrative standpoint. But when you've got a sense of self, you don't have to react in a flailing sort of way. You can stay true to who you are, and I think Vanderbilt probably has always had that. But the sense of self that Candace and Clark Lee and Chancellor Diermeyer have brought is one of conviction toward excellence on the field. So they know how they want to do it, and they don't need to be quite as reactive, perhaps, as other places.
Andrew, appreciate the time as always. Again, just a few weeks away from kickoff against Hawaii and also being here on 102.5, 106.3 The Game. So really looking forward to it. Thanks for doing this today.
As always, Chase.
All right, Andrew Allegretta joining us, a little preview of the Commodores as they'll be on the practice field here in just a little bit. But a lot of interesting discussion, and as Junie brought up, with college football. And I think it's appropriate to ask anybody involved in college sports about the landscape. You know, I was at MTSU yesterday. Rick Stockstill, their head coach, talked about it. Chris Massaro, their athletic director, talked about it. But Greg Sankey has made some interesting comments on the Paul Feinbaum show. We'll discuss that next, and I'm going to be honest, my BS meter's out, is on a little bit. It's Chase McCabe, Junie Riddle in today, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
Year 3 for Clark Lee. The moment is upon us. I think Coach Lee's done a good job. Bowl game's definitely within reach.
Touchdown, Vandy. It's training camp time for the Black and Gold. How will Coach Clark Lee and his squad continue to grow?
Keep coaching and developing through both their wins and their losses.
Keep it locked to your home for the Commodores. 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
We are talking a lot of football, playing the hits right now as football season is right around the corner. And now is the time to place your preseason bets with Superbook in Tennessee. Superbook is the most trusted name in Vegas, and now you can use the promo code CHASE, that's my name, CHASE, to score up to $250 with their first bet bonus. Win or lose, they will match your first bet up to $250 simply by using my name, CHASE, in the promo code slot. Will Tennessee win the division this year? Who's your pick for MVP, and which team will win it all in February? Don't sit on the sidelines. Win money this season with Superbook Sports. Just download the Superbook Tennessee app or visit superbook.com to place your wager today. Football, a $250 first bet bonus, and the Chase promo code will have you doing your own touchdown dance this season with Superbook Sports. Visit superbook.com for terms and conditions. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-889-9789.
Real estate investors, get ready for an incredible opportunity. D&M Development is thrilled to announce the Phase 1 presale of 16 non-owner-occupied short-term rentals in Nashville's exclusive resort-style community, the New Cumberland. Nestled between Germantown and East Nashville, this exceptional location offers stunning views of the city and the Cumberland River. Each unit features spacious kitchen, 4 bedrooms, and 4 baths, providing the ultimate luxury experience for your guests. Resort-style pools and a wide range of amenities. Don't miss out on this exclusive investment chance. Visit thenewcumberland.com for more information and secure your spot in this extraordinary community.
Join 102.5 The Game, Brentwood Fire and Police, the Williamson County Sheriff's Office, Nolensville Fire, and Franklin Fire Departments for the 10th Annual Williamson County Battle of the Badges Blood Drive, Wednesday, August 16th from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. at the Brentwood Library. This year's blood drive will be in honor of Nolensville Fire Chief David Windrow and retired Brentwood Assistant Police Chief Tommy Walsh. Support the 10th Annual Williamson County Battle of the Badges Blood Drive, held August 16th and 17th from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. at the Brentwood Library on Concord Road. Sponsored by B.L. Harbert International.
Hey, it's John Tesh. You know why insurance companies use all those cute and funny characters? To distract you from realizing you're only getting one option. If you want to compare prices, you're forced to visit multiple websites just to get one quote at a time. But not with Xander Insurance, because they work for you. Xander is a broker that shops dozens of top companies to find the best competitive rates for the coverage you need, and they keep reviewing your policy every year to make sure you're getting the best value. They're always available to answer questions, handle problems, and make sure that when it comes to insurance, your life is simple and hassle-free. You even have direct access to their senior management team. If your current company or agent doesn't do this much for you, let Xander Insurance help. Compare rates online at Xander.com or call 800-356-1780 for that personal touch. When Xander works for you, you're going to see the difference. Again, that's 800-356-1780, or you can visit Xander.com with no characters needed.
Nashville Sounds Baseball lives on 94.9 The Fan. Catch every pitch.
Swing and a miss, strike three.
Every hit.
That's a base hit.
Every run.
Looking up, it's gone.
On your home for Sounds Baseball. 94.9 The Fan and The Fan app.
This is Chase McCabe.
Good to meet you. You know why it's good to meet me? Because I'm smart and I'm right.
On 102.5 and 106.3 The Game.
I've opined publicly that I think the speculation and some of the pronouncements we've seen since that time about growth or directional growth is problematic. And even for me, with the security of the Southeastern Conference, whether it was Friday afternoon or through the day Saturday, fielding phone calls, which really were more conversations. What do you think's happening? There's nobody calling me seeking or demanding entry. A lot of commentary publicly. You know, it just wasn't one of those great feelings to work in college sports in my experience. And again, I take responsibility where we've made moves, but there was something different last week about really the still questions around the existence of the Pac-12 conference, given its long and storied history.
Greg Sankey, SEC commissioner. Oh, nice. On the Paul Feinbaum show. What do we make of those comments? Chase McCabe, Junie Riddle, Nick Frazier today. Because, I mean, I hear what he's saying, and he even said, you know, I take some responsibility with, you know, moves that we've made. But and to an extent, I agree with him that this year is different. This year was more of a run towards the money. I've used the phrase of let's see if we can add another zero to, you know, the check that we get. But I also – there's a little bit of a BS with it because this started with Oklahoma and Texas joining the SEC.
It was a trickle-down effect, and you're right. USC and UCLA would not be in the Big Ten right now, or they wouldn't have made that decision last year if they wouldn't have went out and got Oklahoma and Texas. And I've ranted about this before on the air, and I feel like it's kind of getting old to a point because – It really, for me, also started when A&M and Missouri left the Big 12 to come to the SEC as well. It's like that didn't really make sense. Though neither of those teams are located in the Southeast. And now when you take the two biggest brands from that conference, it completely dismantled it. Fine, you lose A&M and Missouri back in 2012. That's one thing. But you take Texas and Oklahoma, two of the biggest powerhouses in all of college football, and you take them from their own conference. That's what happened, and because of that, the Big Ten had to react, and they made even a bigger splash move, go out and get West Coast teams to join a Midwest conference.
Yeah,
and it's just completely turned college football into basically an arms race of who can get the best programs and who can have the best conference and who can have the best TV deal. And meanwhile, nobody has any respect for the fans and what they want.
Yeah, well, you're right. But here's the thing, and you know I kind of brought this up the other day. The fans can be mad, teams can be mad, or players can be mad, what have you. You know, I saw Lane Kiffin quote tweeted a young student athlete that she was like, "This is why I chose my school because it was close to my family and they could come and see my games." Well, now I have to travel halfway across the country because we're going to be playing in the Big Ten. And, you know, Lane quoted and basically said, you know, sorry, they didn't think about, you know, the people that actually have to play the games and go to class the next day. And he was defending her. You know, I mean, I think Lane said the right things. But the truth of the matter is we can all be mad about this, but we're still going to watch, and they know that. And that's where they win because they know no matter what they do, whatever Greg Sankey does. And look, I like Greg Sankey. I think Greg Sankey has been good for college athletics. He's obviously been good for the SEC. Mike Slive did a lot of great things, but Sankey has taken it to another level since he became the commissioner. So, but at the end of the day, they got to live with this and understand that with growth and with progression, they've done some bad things too. I mean, I know, like Jared and I were talking about this, and he brought up the old Big East, that we saw the Big East die, and you texted me about this too. This is a little bit different, like, because I put the Pac-12, like the Pac-12 had such a, and I know the Big East did too, but had such a history and had been around for so long, going back to the Pac-8 or whatever, and then the Pac-10, that I don't think I ever imagined seeing a conference like that had so much prestige, that had the USCs and the UCLAs and the Oregons just disintegrate before our very eyes. And it's their own fault. Like they can't sit here and go, oh, we're the victims. I mean, they should have seen the writing on the wall with things that were happening, and they weren't in a very good financial situation as a conference. TV deals weren't very good. So I mean, they certainly share the blame with that. But I just nobody needs to act innocent in all of this, because it's the money grab, and it started last summer with Oklahoma. I mean, really, you could say it started in 2012, the first time around. And then the Big 12 had to go into survival mode once they lost Texas and Oklahoma. So, they had that whole alliance thing that they were going to try and do. That fell through, and they just ultimately were like, look, if we're going to survive, then we got to go make some moves. And when Colorado decided to go back to them, that was the beginning of the end for the Pac-12.
So, I was kind of sifting through ESPN's website, and one of the main headlines was that the ACC was getting together discussing the whole Cal and Stanford decision.
Now there's roadblocks.
Yeah, and apparently that's going to be kind of tough to struggle. So you're talking about Stanford, which has one of the better athletic programs in the country. And obviously, if we're going to be pairing rivals together, like Oregon and Washington and USC and UCLA, that's Stanford's big rival is Cal. So, those two are obviously going to be packaged together, and if they're not going to make it over to the ACC, then where are they going to go? And if they go somewhere else to a different conference, then where does that leave the ACC? That's already having, some of their members like Florida State, Clemson, and these other programs are already thinking about trying to find a way out. So it's like, where is this going to leave college football? And it's just, especially with everything kind of getting rushed. I mean, we're talking about, what was it, last year, the year before, that they weren't going to move to a 12-team playoff until 2026.
Right.
And then they got bumped back to 25. And then they're like, oh, no, we need to get in here. And now all these teams are scrambling, and all of a sudden 2024 is just going to completely change the entire dynamic of the entire sport. And it's just, for me, it's such an adjustment from growing up from when I seen when, there was a Power Six. And I know, no, you kind of talk about the Big East. I grew up with a Big East school in my hometown. And, even then, they don't have the history that the Pac-12 does, but you're talking about some good teams and just really balanced. And I had went through this past weekend on Frazier and Keezer's show that we do on the weekend, and I was looking at how balanced it was back in the day. And it's just so surprising to me that the Big Ten in general as well has been the conference when really, when you look at since the year 2000, the ACC and Big 12 have outperformed the Big Ten, which is crazy to think about. If you take Ohio State out of the Big Ten and what they did, I mean, you're talking about the ACC and Big 12 blowing them out of the water. So the fact that those two conferences have been also highly affected by this, it just brings a lot of cause for concern for me. I don't like it. I'm going to adjust. I'm going to watch, like you said, but it's kind of infuriating.
The ACC is an interesting one, because if they're not careful, they're going to find themselves in a similar situation. Maybe not completely gone like the Pac-12, but they're going to take a big hit, because I think Florida State, Clemson, Miami eventually end up in the SEC.
Really?
That's where I think this is going to go. It makes sense. It just makes too much sense, because Clemson, South Carolina, Florida State, and then Miami slides in there. And then the wild card in all of this will be if the SEC is like, okay, we're going to add those three, do you go after North Carolina? Because North Carolina could be lucrative for you, especially in basketball.
Well, what is SEC at 16 teams right now? So if they add 3, I mean, what are they going to have? A 19-team
right.
conference?
So they're going to go to 20.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's where this is going to be. You're going to have 20 to – ultimately, when all this is said and done and all the cannibalization is done, I think Big Ten has 24. I think SEC has 24. And then everybody else figures it out. And whatever that looks like. But I think ultimately over the course of – and I'm not saying next year. I'm just saying in the next few years with this whole super conference thing, that's how I see it. Because then you'll have the heavy hitters in one of those two conferences, the teams that we're talking about every year that'll contend for a national championship, and then you'll kind of have the rest, the other guys, so to speak. So I kind of look at it as there would be a 48-team, 2 super conference, NFL basically division, or 2 divisions, whatever the college football playoff looks like, if it's 12. And you can invite the other guys to be a part of that, but we all know it's not going to matter. Maybe then they go to having playoffs within the conferences. Because like, if you have a 20 to 24 team super conference, are you really going to go, 1-2, that's our championship game and for the automatic bid? I mean, we can make an argument that teams 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 in one of those conferences could actually contend for a national title, just had a bad week.
And I feel like this also hurts the mid-majors as well because
it absolutely hurts the mid-majors.
when all the conferences are spread out and you're talking about a 12-team playoff, which I'm for, by the way. I was for the 12-team playoff. That gave opportunity for mid-majors to slide in there.
Yep.
Now when you're talking about all the best programs and all the best conferences, it's going to overshadow those mid-majors because it's like, oh, well, they're obviously in a much lower league. It's almost like it's turning into 1A and 1B of Division I football. And it just, for me, it's going to hurt a lot more programs than it is going to help the ones that are joining these big conferences.
Yeah, and that's what a lot of people are saying. Chase McCabe, he is Junie Riddle here on 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Coming up next, we'll get back into the Titans with Terrell Williams. Coaching this weekend, the league is paying attention. You can also weigh in 615-737-1025. That's our phone and text line driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
ElectronicExpress.com. We make it happen.
You know it's going to happen, and when your car needs service or repair, remember Mitchell's Mr. Transmission on Gallatin Road, just north of Briley Parkway. Now here's Jim Mitchell.
At Mitchell's Mr. Transmission, we also offer free towing with any major repairs. If your vehicle has a breakdown and you should need any type towing is available through Dad's Towing Service. Dad's is a professional towing company in Nashville that provides all types towing and recovery, 24 hours a day.
You know it's going to happen, and when your car needs service or repair, remember Mitchell's Mr. Transmission on Gallatin Road, just north of Briley Parkway.
All of us at 102.5 and 106.3 The Game want to recognize our active military, veterans, first responders, and educators with the playing of our national anthem.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we held at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of
102.5 and 106.3 The Game. Now, your Game Center update.
This is Nick Frazier with your Game Center update. Yesterday, former NFL wide receiver Henry Ruggs III was sentenced to 3 to 10 years in prison for a drunk driving accident that killed a woman and her dog. According to ESPN, Ruggs will be eligible for parole after 3 years. Last night in the MLB, recently acquired pitcher Michael Lorenzen pitched a no-hitter last night as the Phillies won 7-0. Lorenzen threw a new career high of 124 pitches.
The 3-2 pitch. Swung on, popped up, shallow center field. Rojas sprinting in, he's under it. He has space, makes the catch, and Michael Lorenzen has thrown the 14th no-hitter in Philadelphia Phillies history.
Tune in later tonight on 94.9 The Fan as the Nashville Sounds take the field for Game 2 of the series versus the Indianapolis Indians, the AAA affiliate of the Pittsburgh Pirates. You're listening to 102.5 and 106.3 The Game.
For more, follow us on Twitter at 1025 The Game or visit thegamenashville.com. Live from the Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical Studios. WPRT FM Pegram, WPUC HD2 Laverne.
Robbie and Rex Road. Chase McCabe.
Caroline, Willie, D-Mays.
Stone & Company.
Nashville's best sports talk.
Crank it up.
1025 and 106.3.
Rebound on the score.
Make every play perfect.
Touchdown, Middle Tennessee.
We're going to win the game.
A Cromwell media station.
Nashville.
The suit is in the building.
Acknowledge me.
Are you ready? Ready? This is Chase McCabe on Nashville's best sports talk. 1025 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Hour number 2, Chase McCabe, 1025, 106.3 The Game. 615-737-1025. That's our phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Nick Frazier along for the ride as well. Appreciate Junie for hanging out for an hour with us. Great job by him. Titans back on the practice field right now, and I was just looking through Teron Davenport's Twitter feed as he's had some videos of some of the receivers, I'm just ready to see this in preseason games. I mean, Reggie Roberson, is it Roberson or Roberson? Reggie.
I think it's Roberson.
Yeah,
I heard
Reggie
people say
Roberson.
Roberson. It could be Roberson.
Reggie Roberson, that's what I'm going to go with right now. I've been very impressed with him, and I have him very much in contention to make this team. So he's looked good. Traylon Burks obviously looking good. No sign today of D-Hop, Alize Mack, or Naquan Jones during team stretch, according to TD. Mike Vrabel had said he's looking forward to having a different viewpoint on the game, not being the head coach. His focus will be on the operation and how new head coaches like Tim Kelly, Chris Harris are on the headset, that according to TD. Mike Vrabel said that – so I guess Vrabel's already talked. Vrabel said that the Titans will play some of the starters in Saturday's preseason game against the Bears. Vrabel did not say who will start at quarterback. So that's interesting. So could we see Tannehill? I mean, do we think that's going to happen?
I would say no. I mean, why would you risk it? I mean, I get it. A lot of the starters, they go out first, second series, whatever it may be. And I'm sure the opposing team understands that, we're all out here to get some sort of look. And I heard earlier this morning on Robbie and Rex Road, Jack Gibbons, who joined them as their guest, he made sure to say that, teams are just out there to get looks. They're out there to just make sure that they can get their feet wet with the installs. They're not really out there showing too much. Yeah. And so, with that being said, I wouldn't expect to see Tannehill out there. Now, I would like to see Malik Willis start. That would probably be my preference.
Yeah, I'd probably go Willis too if you're not going to start Tannehill. But like I said earlier, I mean, if they start Tannehill and they give him a couple series, I wouldn't hate that. I don't think that's the end of the world. But it won't be Mike Vrabel acting as the head coach. As we mentioned, and we've talked about this a lot this week, he will have a different perspective. He's going to let Terrell Williams, who's the assistant head coach, he will let him be the head coach this week. And I thought he gave a really good answer when Jared asked the question on Tuesday, because, I mean, one thing that has been talked about around the league in a positive way, the league has noticed is, is Vrabel giving a minority coach an opportunity to get noticed to potentially get a head coaching job? Here was the question and answer from Jared and Vrabel.
Yesterday, after you said that Coach T was going to be coaching on Saturday, about the opportunity that it gives a minority potential head coach to show the league and the owners who make those decisions what somebody could do. Was that part of your thought process? And as a coach, do you think about how actions like this can help minority coaching candidates get head coaching jobs?
One thing I can't, concern myself with is what, other people think or say. My intent was to do what was best for T in this situation. It wasn't to send any sort of message. This wasn't anything. I did what I thought was best for him and for us at this particular time. That's what I wanted to do, and it's well deserved. It's earned. It's And again, even like today, we had him go through this, talk to the officials about, the officials meeting that happens 90 minutes before the game. And, I didn't know what the hell to do the first time we met with the officials. They asked for the punt card. I'm like, well, where the hell's the punt card? I mean, something little as that. And just, just making sure that we give application to things that we're trying to coach and to teach and develop each one of our coaches and players here.
That was Mike Vrabel on some of his thought process with Terrell Williams being the head coach. And, I agree with him that you can't worry about what everybody else thinks. But at the same time, I do think that he is loyal to the coaching brotherhood and wants, his assistants to get a fair opportunity. And, so many times we look at the coordinators and those are the ones that are in the spotlight and those are the ones that, end up getting head coaching jobs, not the defensive line coach. And so, he's been a coach for a long time. And so Mike Vrabel's putting him in a position to get noticed and to succeed and to, get those reps. And like he said, there were things that he didn't know the first time that he coached. And later on in the press conference, he was asked, do you remember your first game? And he laughed and he said, well, the first regular season game was the 8-hour one in Miami. There was a huge weather delay, but he doesn't remember. He was like, I couldn't tell you my first preseason game. I don't remember that at all. And so I think he's looking at his own experiences and applying that to this. And yes, there is another aspect of this that Terrell Williams is a black coach, and that certainly has been something that's been discussed a lot. That is the Rooney Rule working the way that it's supposed to? That getting more opportunities for minority coaches, and that's obviously something that we all want to see. But I think in Vrabel's eyes, he's just looking at it as this is a good coach that has earned an opportunity. I've made him my assistant head coach this year, and I want him to get reps. It's just like Malik Willis or Will Levis getting reps at quarterback in the preseason. And the other part that I think gets lost in this is the fact that Vrabel is going to get a different perspective and can work with some of his other assistants throughout the game and just kind of be more of an advisor than having to worry about, quote unquote, calling the game.
Yeah, and I'm also curious too, not even from Vrabel's standpoint, but from a quarterback standpoint as well, because I don't know if you watched the new Hard Knocks, but Aaron Rodgers.
I got to catch up. I'm going to do that tonight.
It's all good. I'm not spoiling anything, but Aaron Rodgers in the Hall of Fame game was wearing the headset and kind of talking with the quarterback, Zach Wilson, and so forth. I'm curious to see if Tannehill will do something like that as well. And it kind of takes the pressure off Mike Vrabel as well, so he can actually assess different aspects of the game that he normally doesn't get to see, like you're alluding to now. So I would love to see something like that be taking place in this upcoming Saturday's matchup versus the Bears. But I guess we'll have to see. Honestly, going to the Terrell Williams situation here, Chase, do you think this kind of opens the door to a trickle-down effect to other teams that do this in the preseason?
100%. I think you will see I don't know if you'll see it this year, but because the first preseason game makes the most sense to do something like this. Because next week you're going to have joint practices in Minnesota, then you're going to have joint practices against the Patriots, and you're going to be doing a little more evaluation. So I'd rather see them do it in the first preseason game than I would in the second or the third. But yes, I think other teams around the league are taking notice of this, and I think you're going to see it happen more. I think it's a positive thing, and I hope that you see more of it. And look, not just, I mean, I've said it's got to get better with minority coaches, but if there's somebody on your staff, that, I mean, even I think we're seeing this with more women in the league as assistant coaches. And I heard Teresa Walker reference this morning Becky Hammond, being an assistant for Greg Popovich for so long. She coached in the summer league, and yes, she's in the WNBA now as a head coach, but that got her a lot of notoriety. And I still think that Becky Hammond could become the first female head coach in the NBA. I just think Pop is not showing any signs of stepping down anytime soon. So it was an opportunity for her to go be a head coach in the WNBA. So I think this opens the door for a lot of good things. And so, yeah, that's the long way of answering your question, that I do think you're going to see more of this in years to come, because it's a great idea. And the NBA has done it, with Summer League and things like that. I referenced the Predators a few years ago, Peter Laviolette, and I think it was more of a get a different perspective, but he wasn't the head coach necessarily during a game because he was watching from the booth. So you've seen other sports do things similar to this, but I'm curious, like in baseball, do you see some bench coaches that are aspiring to be managers? Do they get to manage a game? And because it's a completely different seat.
I will say, speaking of baseball briefly, Skip Schumacher was with the Cardinals last year as a bench coach, and now is with the Miami Marlins as their manager of the team, and he's done quite well for the Marlins this year. So I obviously, talking about having that little bit of taste of having that hierarchy role in the coaching staff, I do believe it is on the up and up for just any sport in North America or across the world in general.
Coming up next, continue the discussion with the Titans and whether they have something to prove. You know how I feel about having a chip on your shoulder. I am all about it. We'll discuss that next. Chase McCabe, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
It's college football.
Players might end up not going to Alabama or Georgia.
Or the NFL.
I think that this team wins the AFC South.
Trevor knows. Join ESPN's Trevor Maddich every Tuesday at 4:30 on Stillman and Company as he gives his opinions on the latest from the gridiron.
I'm going to the team where I can get a ring.
Trevor Maddich brought to you by Houston Clinic Orthopedics, where experience matters, on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Hey, it's Jared. Want to tell you about Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical. Hiller is keeping you chillin' all summer with special deals to keep you relaxed and happy this summer. Tackle those necessary home system replacements this month to take advantage of these special deals. When you purchase a select new HVAC system, you'll get 2 Yeti Trailhead camping chairs, a Yeti Panga 28L waterproof backpack, a Yeti Tundra 75, and 2 Yeti tumblers for free. And get special freebies on Yeti products with every new whole home generator or tankless water heater purchase. That's Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical.
It is red hot in Music City.
On Wednesday, August 16th.
My God, listen to that.
AEW Dynamite and Rampage invade the Bridgestone Arena for a massive night of elite professional wrestling action in Nashville.
We have got a red hot show in store for you tonight.
Don't miss the AEW World Champion MJF.
I'm better than you.
Chris Jericho in the JAS.
I am the Wizard. I am the Ocho. I am Chris Jericho.
Kenny Omega, the Young Bucks, Dr. Britt Baker. John Moxley, Claudio Castagnoli, Bryan Danielson, Wheeler Yuta, Chris Statlander, The Acclaim.
Everyone love!
The Outcasts, Jungle Boy Jack Perry, Keith Lee, Orange Cassidy, Ricky Starks, Adam Cole. Wardlow, Swerve, Hangman Page, Hook, Darby Allin, Sting.
This is Sting!
Nashville's own Jeff and Karen Jarrett, and all your favorite stars will be in action live.
Well, that's huge.
Don't miss AEW's only Nashville appearance this year at the Bridgestone Arena. Tickets are on sale now. Go to AEWTix.com. Cards subject to change.
Summer's winding down, and now's a perfect time to dial up your back-to-school plans. Lincoln Tech's NADC offers hands-on training programs in fields like auto and diesel technology, heavy equipment maintenance, and welding that last about a year. Enroll now for August classes at their Nashville campus, and by next summer, you could be starting a rewarding new career. To help finance your future, Lincoln is awarding nearly $20 million in scholarships and grants to students of all ages. Visit lincolntech.edu today for info and to schedule a campus tour.
Oh, Charlie's, that's where you'll find me. That southern flavor got me saying, hey, y'all. And ooh, that gooey caramel pie tastes like summertime at Old Charlie's.
The sweet, sweet sounds of this song are in honor of the sweet, sweet news that free Pie Wednesdays are back at O'Charlie's. O'Charlie's. Oh, that's good.
Yum, yum, have some fun. O'Charlie's, born in Nashville, and it shows.
This week's Nashville's best deal is CBD American Shaman. Step into one of the CBD American Shaman's retail stores and sample various CBD products, while a CBD consultant is there to answer any of your questions. They select top-grade hemp plants grown on agriculturally responsible farms right here in the USA and bring worldwide wellness through ultra-concentrated CBD oil. They even have CBD treatments for your pets. Get half off a $30 gift card right now to their Goodlettsville or Hendersonville location at thegamenashville.com/deals.
Nashville Sounds Baseball lives on 94.9 The Fan. Catch every pitch.
Swing and a miss, strike three.
Every hit.
That's a base hit.
Every run.
Looking up, it's gone.
On your home for Sounds Baseball. 94.9 The Fan and The Fan app.
Chase McCabe is on.
I am not that guy you think I was.
102.5 and 106.3 The Game.
Going to have your chance to win tickets to see All Elite Wrestling, AEW, coming up. Bridgestone Arena next Wednesday, August 16th. Dynamite and Rampage. Really looking forward to that. Should be a fun show. Chris Jericho will be there. Sting. Some names. MJF that you have heard. So be listening for your chance to win that. And also, we'll talk to D-Mace from training camp here in a few minutes. I know it's a little rainy out there, so they might be heading this way, but we will check in with D-Mace, get his thoughts on it, everything going on. Also, we are your racing station, 102.5 and 106.3 The Game is Nashville's home for NASCAR. Tune in this Saturday at 4 for the Pennzoil 150, and on Sunday at 12:30 for the Verizon 200 at the Brickyard, Indianapolis Motor Speedway. NASCAR on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game is presented by O'Charlie's. Talking some Titans with you, 615-737-1025. You can call or text our phone line, 615-737-1025, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Chip on their shoulder. Do the Titans have something to prove? I'm going to say absolutely they do. Now, I've always kind of had this motto with that I'm not worried about proving you wrong. I'm worried about proving me right. And that's been my whole motto in my career, is I've had to work hard to get to where I am. A lot of people out there listening have gone through the same thing in whatever field you're in. And I've always adopted the phrase of prove yourself right. And so with the Titans, I think there's a lot of belief in that organization that they are going to be a lot better than people think they're going to be. Rand Carthon, their GM, was on the SiriusXM tour on NFL radio talking about this, but I thought his comments were very interesting about who he brought up.
Every day, everybody here has something to prove, and again, it goes back to what I said about, the draft picks and the free agents that we signed. And you look at three of our leaders, you look at Ryan. Everybody was trying to cash Ryan off in the offseason, making my life hard, whether we were keeping him or not keeping him.
You were keeping Ryan Tannehill. You said that from the start.
But, Ryan has something to prove to the people. The current market of running backs and what they should or, are not making. Derek has something to prove. We had our talks with KB, in the offseason about a pay cut, if you will. So KB has something to prove. You know what I mean? And even Jeff getting his extension, traditionally people say that guys get paid, they get comfortable, and they don't play the same. So Jeff's got something to prove. So everybody on this team has something to prove, to show the world that they are who they are and that they can still play at a high level in this league.
But how are they looking at it? Are they looking at it that they're proving, yeah, look, I'm worth this, and And I feel like with somebody like Kevin Byard, that is the thing. And there's been this whole thing of the offseason of pay cuts, and he ultimately took one. I mean, Carthon basically just admitted it there, even though it was a restructure of the contract. He can still get some of that money back with incentives. Whether it was true that he did it because of DeAndre Hopkins or not, who knows? Now he's going to look at it as, okay, watch this. This is why I was making that kind of money. This is why I deserve to make that kind of money, because of who I am as a player and who I am as a person for this team. He's going to prove that. Ryan Tannehill is a great example of nobody's forgiven him, or a lot of people haven't forgiven him for the 3 interceptions against Cincinnati when they were the 1 seed. Cincinnati goes to the Super Bowl. A lot of people aren't over that. And he's, he in his mind is like, okay, I got to go out there and show you that I can do this, that I can win in this league. And he does have to do it, because that's what makes him so polarizing, is he's been solid in the regular season. But if you're playing in mid-January, what is he? Can he win the big one in the playoffs? And he hasn't really proven that he can to this point. When they went to the AFC Championship game, yes, he was an integral part of that, but it was Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry was the guy carrying the load and ultimately got them to that point. When everything went on Tannehill's shoulders to go into Arrowhead Stadium and win a game, he couldn't do it. And then the next year, it was the same thing in Baltimore. And then the next year, it was 3 interceptions against Cincinnati. He's got to prove it in the postseason. And you can make every excuse in the book. Injuries the last 2 years, a factor. Obviously, he was hurt last year, and they ended up missing the playoffs. But that's where he's got that chip on his shoulder, and he's got to prove something. And then Derrick Henry, running back. I thought it was interesting that Rand Carthon brought up that running back market. Derrick Henry's fighting for himself, but he's also fighting for the future of the position. And I do believe that Derrick looks at it that way. I think there are other running backs that are, worrying about themselves, and I get it, and they should to an extent. Derrick's looking at it not only for himself, but the guys that are going to come after him in the future at that position and what they're worth. So you combine all those things together. And on defense, Jeffrey Simmons proven I deserve the bag I got. I'm hungry. I was hurt last year, pissed off for greatness. Watch out. This is going to happen. Christian Fulton's another one. We've talked about Christian Fulton till we're blue in the face, and he even talked about that on having something to prove.
Yeah, definitely. I'm coming into every season, with something to prove, but definitely this year, besides, not really worried about contract talk, but just as a corner, I feel like I am one of those top guys in this league. And, I got to go out there and show it week to week. Obviously, I know that, but I feel like my talent is there, and I feel like I can go with the best of them. Whenever I went up against one of those top receivers in the league, I pretty much held my own since I've been in the league, but it's just about doing it consistently.
Yeah, and look, you got to prove it. He's got to prove it. He's got to play in 17 games, or at least 16. They may rest the starters depending on how things are, but he's got to play a full season. He hadn't done that. So prove to me that you can do that you can stay healthy. And I have paid attention to his comments that he made when he was on Caroline, Willie, and D-Mace a few weeks ago, saying that this is the first time he's come into camp and he's been healthy, and he hadn't been rehabbing something. That's big that he can sit there and he can say that. He's had a really good camp. I want him to stay healthy, and I want him to prove it, because you're right. He does have talent. I loved him out of LSU. When we did our mock drafts, I had him at the end of the first round coming here, and he ended up dropping to the second. But I think he's got all the talent in the world. It's just, can he stay healthy, and then can he put it together? Can he make those big plays in the games when it counts against some of these top wide receivers in this league?
Minus Jeffrey Simmons and the Rand Carthon clip there, Ryan Tannehill, Derrick Henry, Christian Fulton. He said all these guys have something to prove. Now, you've heard the prove it deal phrase.
Sure.
Does this mean, if they do end up going to the playoffs and going deep, do they all get 1-year extensions to a certain degree? Is that the prove it deal that he's kind of alluding to?
I think that's easier said than done. I mean, Simmons is obviously locked up. I don't think they pay Fulton. Because they you know, I don't see that happening unless he just really balls out. But then, you know, can you afford him? Because then there's a trickle-down effect because Kevin Byard's another one of those guys. You know, Kevin Byard is still under contract for next year. Now, everybody kind of thinks they're going to cut him and that this is probably the last ride for him. But what if he has a really good year? Then you got to choose between them. You know, who's more important to you, Byard or Fulton? For me, it would still be Byard, even though he's older. So you got to look at it that way. Derrick Henry, well, how much – the market dictates how much a running back is going to get. I don't see the market changing all that much in the course of, you know, a few months in one season. So, you know, what is Derrick going to want? How are they going to view what are they going to view as a fair deal for both sides? And then the same thing with Tannehill. What's different with Tannehill is it's not all contingent on what Tannehill does. It's what's happening behind him. If they come out of this preseason and they go into practice in the regular season and they feel that Will Levis and Malik Willis are making proper progress, that they can fight for the starting job, then they move on from Tannehill no matter what he does. I mean, if he wins a Super Bowl, maybe that's different, but you know, I think it's going to have to take a lot for them to do that, and I think they're capable of it. I mean, I've said that I think right now that Tannehill's in play to be re-signed, but a lot of things have to happen. So, and if I'm them, if I'm the player, you know, I'm wanting more than a 1-year deal. I mean, that's just looking out for yourself. So, we just kind of have to wait and see on that. Caroline, Willie, and D-Mace are headed back here as a little wet at St. Thomas Sports Park. So, obviously, with our equipment, worried about that. So, they're going to be here. We will talk to Derrick next if he's here, or we'll call him. We'll do that, get his thoughts on practice and things to this point. Chase McCabe, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
If it's important to Nashville,
I'll put it out right now.
It's important to Jared Stillman.
Like, that's it.
He's not afraid to ask the tough questions.
Something is going on, and the question is, what does it mean?
Or give the strong opinion.
And just needed the bozo offensive coordinator to stop ruining the quarterback.
Stillman and Company. Weekdays at 2 on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
When looking for quality adult recreational sports in Nashville, look no further than Mid-State Sports. With over 25,000 participants, they are one of the largest sports organizations in the Southeast. Summer registration is now open for adult sports like softball, sand volleyball, soccer, flag football, kickball, and basketball. For a full list of adult sports offerings, check out midstatesports.com. It's no debate. Play Mid-State.
Are you drowning in credit card debt? Want to get cash out of your home's equity? Loan Pronto can do it now in less than a week. Hey, Willie Donick here. That's right. Loan Pronto's Equity Express line of credit just got even faster. You can get $50,000, $100,000, even $200,000 in as little as 5 days. You don't even have to touch your primary mortgage. You can keep that 3% rate intact. Get just the money you need and pay off all those credit cards or get that home improvement project started. With this revolutionary program, you can access up to 90% of your home's value, and in most cases, there's no appraisal. Stop paying insane interest rates to the credit card companies and get tens or even hundreds of thousands of dollars in cash in as little as 5 days. Call Loan Pronto now for the even faster Equity Express line. 615-499-5780. That's 615-499-5780 or go to loanpronto.com. 615-499-5780. Equal Housing Lender, NMLS 1661781, subject to lender approval.
Do reward. Just desserts. Special day. Payoff. Just because. Whatever your reasons, it's time to visit the spa.
Mocara Spa at the Omni Nashville Hotel. Now offering outdoor yoga 9 a.m. every Saturday through September 2nd on the spa terrace. Book any treatment and get complimentary valet parking and access to the rooftop pool with incredible views of the Music City skyline. Mocara Spa at the Omni Nashville Hotel. Inner Zen, outer beauty.
It is red hot in New Music City.
On Wednesday, August 16th.
My God, listen to that.
AEW Dynamite and Rampage invade the Bridgestone Arena for a massive night of elite professional wrestling action in Nashville.
We have got a red-hot show in store for you tonight.
Don't miss the AEW World Champion MJF.
I'm better than you.
Chris Jericho in the JAS.
I am the Wizard. I am the Ocho. I am Chris Jericho.
Kenny Omega, the Young Bucks, Dr. Britt Baker. John Moxley, Claudio Castagnoli, Bryan Danielson, Wheeler Yuta, Chris Statlander, The Acclaim.
Everyone, love.
The Outcasts, Jungle Boy Jack Perry, Keith Lee, Orange Cassidy, Ricky Starks, Adam Cole. Wardlow, Swerve, Hangman Page, Hook, Darby Allin, Sting.
This is Sting.
Nashville's own Jeff and Karen Jarrett, and all your favorite stars will be in action live.
Well, that's huge.
Don't miss AEW's only Nashville appearance this year at the Bridgestone Arena. Tickets are on sale now. Go to AEWTix.com. Cards subject to change.
Happy 62nd birthday, Granddad.
Thanks, sweetheart.
I got you this.
A mug. Oh, thank you. What does it say? Beware. If you are 60 or older, you may be at increased risk of hospitalization from RSV, respiratory syncytial virus, compared to adults younger than 60.
Not all dangers come with warning labels. Talk to your pharmacist or doctor about getting vaccinated against RSV today. Learn more at bewareofrsv.com. Brought to you by Pfizer.
It's the latest social networking thingy. We are all over social media. Follow us on Twitter at 1025thegame. You can follow me at ChaseOnGame. Also on Instagram at 1025thegame Nashville and at the Chase McCabe. See, aren't we cool?
Chase McCabe on 1025 and 1063 The Game.
Chase McCabe, 1025, 1063 The Game. Hope you're having a great start to your Thursday. Tune in for Nashville Sounds Baseball today, 4:50 pregame, a doubleheader on 94.9 The Fan. Last night's game got postponed, so they will play 2 7-inning games today as they take on the Indianapolis Indians, AAA affiliate of the Pittsburgh Pirates. Sounds Baseball on 94.9 The Fan is presented by 312 Pizza Company, Farm Bureau Health Plans, and Family Leisure. So check that out coming up today. D-Mace is on his way here, so he's going to jump in studio with me when he gets here. We'll talk about Titans practice and stuff with him. Get out of the summer heat and join us for craft brews, food, games, and entertainment at the 2023 Nashville Predators Craft Beer Festival. The fun begins tomorrow night from 6:30 to 10 at Bridgestone Arena. Proceeds benefit the Preds Foundation, which supports Middle Tennessee nonprofit groups and programs in the community. Looking forward to that one. Always a fun event. We will give away these AEW tickets here in just a few minutes. You heard the commercial there, so we will do that in a few minutes for the wrestling fans that are out there. But, you know, Mike Vrabel said that some starters are going to play in the preseason opener against Chicago, but he did not specify who. Now, Teron Davenport just tweeted out DeAndre Hopkins just came out as now in for the Titans as they start another team period, so that's good. The kicking battle today, Caleb Shudak and Trey Wolf were both good from 26, 38, 33, and 44. So that's good. I want to see how they are from 47, 48, 49, 50, 51. I mean, you got to make those big kicks. But that from Teron Davenport.
I will say, with the weather being very wonky today, kicking in this wet weather on grass is not too easy. I know they have a little bit of a block from time to time, but especially in the NFL with those balls in the leather, they soak up water.
Yeah.
So when you kick the ball, it's almost like I don't want to say cinder block, but it's a little bit more heavy, so you got to put a little bit more leg strength into it.
So when I was in high school and was the team manager, we played a game at Fairview one time that it was just a torrential downpour. And Coach told me, you have one job tonight, and that's keep the footballs as dry as you possibly can, which, I mean, look, you're not going to do. But I had a big tub that I put the K-balls in, and, like, they stayed in there until I pulled them out and threw it to the ref. And, like, Coach was even yelling at the ref to be faster because I threw him a great, the underhand throw, that you do for refs.
The solid spiral.
I threw it right to him, and he dropped it. And Coach, just went nuts because that wasn't my fault. But I had a big rain jacket that I had to keep him under. There was one time we were at home and it was raining just as bad. And at halftime, I just like threw a bunch in a bag and I ran down to the laundry room and threw them in the dryer for like just a little bit, took some air out of them, put them in the dryer. I mean, all sorts of things to try and keep them. So you're right. I mean, because it changes things completely with a wet football. But I mean, you're going to have to play in those conditions. So why not practice in them?
That's a good test for the Shudak and the boys today to have something challenging like that.
Wolf has looked good too. I think Shudak's going to win the job because he's been here. But I will say now, whether that, again, I got to see him in pressure situations. Like, I know that the plan has been discussed that if there's a 53-yarder that could be kicked on Saturday, I want to see them kick that 53-yarder to see what he's got, especially if you're dealing with wind in Chicago. Like, I'd like to see, how they act and how they are in some of those conditions. But here was Mike Vrabel when asked what goes into the decision to play someone in the preseason or not.
What kind of goes into the decision on who plays, maybe who doesn't in the preseason?
Just seeing where guys are health-wise, seeing where guys are with the work they've gotten out here, trying for allow me to identify the work that they've gotten in and then say, okay, well, this is what we haven't gotten in. Let's get this player some more work in this particular situation.
So that was Mike Vrabel, not adding too much to that, but did say earlier, Teron Davenport put it on his Twitter account that some starters will play. I'll be curious of who. And, if they decide to give in fact, there's a video that's out there of Vrabel. He kind of did a scrum with reporters before practice. He said the decision has been made at quarterback against the Bears, but he's not going to tell us.
Thanks, Mike. Appreciate that.
I think it's Malik Willis.
Yeah.
That's what I think.
Now, going into this preseason game, I don't want to switch subjects pretty brief, just to make it a quick little topic. Going into this, obviously Mike Vrabel's not the head coach for this game, but you have to think in grand scheme of things, him and Terrell met before in practice and have some sort of game plan, right? I mean, it's a must.
Sure.
Or does Terrell have his own game plan?
No, I mean he's going to run Vrabel's game plan. Like, make no question about it. Mike Vrabel's the head coach. And the only thing that Terrell Williams is doing is he's going to be the in-game head coach. But Mike Vrabel is ultimately the decision maker. He's going to decide who's going to play, who's going to start, how long they're going to play, et cetera, et cetera. And then let Williams call the game. Little news out of college football. Dennis Dodd just putting this out. Sources, Cal Stanford to the ACC looks unlikely at this time. He also says, remember where we were a week ago at this moment. Conclusion, stay tuned. So, that is interesting. That looks like it may not be happening as of now, but as we know, anything changes minute by minute in anything in life. So, but that coming out from Dennis Dodd, very interesting there. That doesn't look like Stanford and Cal will join the ACC at this time.
Is that the Big 12 knocking at the back door over there, Chase?
Could be. I mean, who knows? I mean, is it the Pac-4 saying, "Hey, we're gonna survive"?
The Wolf Pack.
Yeah, I mean, we're gonna add random teams and be the Pac-8 again, but I don't see it. So something to pay attention to. But back into the Titans. So this is, I mean, like, why be secretive right now? Like, who cares? Like, if you've already decided, does that mean he hadn't told the player?
Maybe Vrabel's just practicing his, like, incognito game plan for midseason for him. You never know.
I guess. I don't know. I think it's Malik Willis. I think that's who's going to start. I hope it's Ryan Tannehill and that he gets a series or two. But it's probably going to be Malik Willis. That's what I think. I don't think Derrick Henry sniffs it. I don't think DeAndre Hopkins sniffs it. I think Traylon Burks should play a little bit. Like to see him play a quarter, and then you could pull him out. The offensive line, like if they ended up playing the whole game, I wouldn't be mad. I know he's not going to do that, but I think ultimately when he says some starters, like the offensive line is probably in that group. Jeffrey Simmons probably not. He doesn't need to. There's some guys that they need to, and there's some guys that don't. We'll ask D-Mace about that when he comes in here in a few minutes. But right now, we will give you a chance to win a pair of tickets to see All Elite Wrestling, Dynamite, and Rampage at Bridgestone Arena on Wednesday, August 16th. But you must answer this question. Let's test your wrestling knowledge for you wrestling fans out there. Chris Jericho is going to be featured at AEW, Dynamite, and Rampage. Of course, he's been around for a long time. There is a famous promo that he cut all the way back in WCW where he had a list of all of the holds that he knows in retaliation to Dean Malenko. What was the hold that he kept repeating over and over again? If you can answer that to Nick Frazier at 615-737-1025, you will win a pair of tickets to see AEW, Dynamite, and Rampage. But you must answer the question. D-Mace will join the fray coming up next. Chase McCabe, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
It's a long summer. But don't worry. Hockey will be back soon. You'll hear every slap shot, save, hit, and of course,
knocked down in front, rebound, and the score!
On your home for Smashville, 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app. Is it October yet?
All right, let's talk Superbook Sports. It's football season. It's here. And right now is the time to place your preseason bets with Superbook in Tennessee. Superbook is the most trusted name in Vegas, and now you can use my promo code CHASE to score up to $250 with their first bet bonus. Win or lose, they'll match your first bet up to $250 simply by using the promo code CHASE. It's that simple, CHASE. That is my name. Will Tennessee win the division this year? Who is your pick for MVP, and which team will win it all in February? Don't sit on the sidelines. Win money this season with Superbook Sports. Just download the Superbook Tennessee app or visit superbook.com to place your wager today. Football, a $250 first bet bonus, and the Chase promo code will make you do your own touchdown dance this season with Superbook Sports. Visit superbook.com for terms and conditions. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-889-9789.
Hear that? That's Jeff Anderson. He's that guy in your neighborhood that's always making improvements to his house, his car, his yard. On your street, it's about keeping up with the Andersons. One thing you don't know is Jeff's tools are from Harbor Freight. Tools at great prices. That circular saw right there, you wouldn't believe the deal he got. Just think, when you're keeping up with the Andersons, you're saving money. Whatever you do, do it for less at Harbor Freight.
Mid-State Sports summer registration is going on now. Adults can register as an individual or bring their whole team for softball, sand volleyball, soccer, flag football, kickball, and basketball. For more info, visit midstatesports.com. It's no debate. Play Mid-State.
312 Pizza Company is a proud sponsor of Nashville Sounds Baseball on 102.5 The Game.
If you're hiring, it can feel like you're trying to find a needle in a haystack. You can hope the right person comes along, or you can just use ZipRecruiter. And now you can try it for free at ZipRecruiter.com/radio. In fact, ZipRecruiter has helped a lot of business owners find their needle in a haystack, like Marco, president of operations at Telly Tires and Auto Centers. Because Telly Tires has grown a lot in the last few years, Marco needed to hire everyone from a receptionist to a store manager to a head mechanic.
ZipRecruiter helps me find all the right people, even the most difficult jobs to fill. ZipRecruiter helps me keep my business running.
Take it from Marco and millions of other businesses who've used ZipRecruiter. ZipRecruiter can help you find the needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free at ZipRecruiter.com/radio. That's ZipRecruiter.com/RADIO. ZipRecruiter.com/radio. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire.
Hey, do you need to listen on the go? Download the Game Nashville app from your app store today, and you can listen to us anywhere in the world. It's that simple. What an age we live in.
Chase McCabe on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game.
Chase McCabe, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. D. Mace. Derek Mason has joined the fray. Caroline, Willie, and D. Mace coming up next. I mean, Willie, is he ever going to be on the show again?
I don't know.
Nope.
Willie. Willie's gone.
Willie gone.
Willie gone.
No, he's back
Willie
tomorrow
be back
from
tomorrow.
From his trip. Well-deserved trip.
Yes.
Preseason opens on Saturday for the Titans in Chicago, a noon kick. We got some preseason games tonight. There are teams around the league that are going to play starters. Mike Vrabel said earlier today, did a little scrum with the media, that some starters will play. He said he has decided who will start at quarterback, but he's not telling us yet. You and I were just discussing this during the break. Should Ryan Tannehill play at least a series or two? What do you think, Derek?
I mean, if he does play, I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be upset. If he doesn't, I wouldn't be upset either. But if he does play, then I think, D-Hop needs to be in a series with him. Just to sort of build that chemistry, game time chemistry. But I really don't believe he's going to play. The offensive line will, and they should. Now, if I was betting, I would, bet that Malik would be the starter.
Me too.
At least for the first half, and then Levis would come in. But yeah, some of these veteran guys do need to play. Not necessarily because I think, they got something to prove or they're borderline guys. No, because, this team from an offensive standpoint wasn't good last year.
Mm-hmm.
And they need all the time they can together to make this thing gel.
When you were established as the number one receiver, whether it was here or in Baltimore, how much did it help you to play in the preseason?
We very seldom. I mean,
I don't remember you playing a whole lot.
2 series, maybe a series. Like the first game, we would play a series. That's it.
Yeah.
No matter if you went 3 and out, didn't matter. Get in, get out. Second game, it was maybe 2 series. Third game is when we really played it to the halftime.
The dress rehearsal.
Sometimes we played the series after half, but then the fourth game we didn't play at all.
Yeah.
There was no need to. But I enjoyed, at least getting out there, building up a sweat, getting myself, in game sort of mode out there. Because that third game was a little bit tougher than the first 2, because now defenses are game planning a little, not a lot, but a little. But I enjoyed playing them because I knew, ultimately we were not going to play a lot, but we're going to play just enough to kind of get a rhythm going.
Yeah, and, there are guys that, like Derrick Henry, okay, he didn't need to play. That's fine, No. But you mentioned the offensive line. I guess my one thing with Tannehill, even though, you could say, I don't want him to play behind that offensive line, don't want him to get hurt. But at the same time, isn't it important for him to build that rapport with that new O-line?
Yeah, it is. But, I don't want to do it at the expense of his potential health either. You just got to, this is sort of a calculated risk in a sense, because the offensive line isn't quite established yet. So do you want to throw your quarterback out there? And because defenses are playing vanilla defense, you get him a few rhythm throws, 3-step drops just to get the ball out of his hands very quickly. No 5-step drops. Excuse me. No 5-step drops. Just something to get his feet to going, his vision as far as where guys are going to be, and then also giving him an opportunity to throw to some new pass catchers. But everything needs to be quick. If he's going to play, everything needs to be 3-step, or he's in the shotgun getting rid of it very quickly.
What have you seen from this receiver battle? Obviously, D-Hop, Traylon Burks, you know what they are, but I've been impressed with Kyle Phillips. I think Chris Moore is a nice addition as a veteran, but I think Racey McMath has something to still fight for. I think NWI still has something to fight for because Reggie Roberson's looked really good, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I am pleasantly surprised with this receiving core because obviously the receiving core and the offensive line was the question marks. If they don't bolster the offensive line, then this team is going to end up being in the same position or even worse than last season. If they don't get some more pass catchers, or if pass catchers don't step up, then we're going to continue to have to rely heavy on Derrick Henry. But the receiving core has been a pleasant surprise behind the top 2 or 3 guys. The top 3 guys to me is Traylon, DeAndre Hopkins, and Chris Moore. So behind those guys, I believe they play fairly well. They're fighting for, maybe 1 or 2 positions. And guys have stepped up. I need to see Racey McMath step up a little bit more. This is his opportunity to show that he can not just be a special teams player, and there's nothing wrong with being a special teams player, but if you want to be a part of this offense, you got to show that you can make plays in the game. So he needs to step his game up, as well as the rest of the guys do. I think Kyle Phillips needs to establish himself as the slot guy, a guy that can come in and help move the chain. So each guy on this roster right now has something from a receiver standpoint, have something to prove. And there's only, they may keep 6. So if you're talking, if we say, well, who's making the team? DeAndre Hopkins, Traylon Burks, Kyle Phillips, Chris Moore, and after that, those 4, it's a toss-up because they're only keeping 2 more. So you got 4 other guys fighting for 2 receiving spots.
And I think they keep at least 4 tight ends because one of those guys can kind of be the H-back, fullback role because I don't think they're keeping – or they don't have a fullback. They could carry – I think it's risky to carry 3 running backs, so I think 4 is probably what they end up doing. So, I mean, right there, that's 18 players.
Yeah.
At 3 position groups. Do you want to carry an extra offensive lineman?
Well, you're going to have to.
Right.
Maybe 2.
You want to do that.
Extra offensive lineman.
And then if you're carrying 3 quarterbacks, which I'm convinced they're carrying 3 quarterbacks.
They can't. I can't see them not carrying 3 quarterbacks.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're carrying
especially 3. If the 2 behind the starters are making strides each and every practice and preseason game. You'd be crazy to let one of them go.
When we were talking about Tannehill and whether he should start or not, do you think that the joint practices can take the need away from him to play because he's going to get looks against other teams next week against Minnesota and the following week against New England?
Yeah, I could see Vrabel using those 2 scrimmages as games to him because those guys, you're practicing against someone else. You don't know what they're going to do from a defense standpoint, even though, both coaches talk about, both head coaches get together and talk about what they want to accomplish in practice today. But I'm not going to sit here and hand over my game plan to him and let him see what I'm doing. So there are things that you can set it up like a game type situation. So I think Ryan, if he doesn't play Saturday, I believe he will get a lot of snaps against scrimmage against Minnesota and a lot of snaps against the scrimmage against New England.
Well, he just got picked off by Roger McCreary, so
it's good for Roger McCreary.
Yeah,
bad for him.
Everything I'm seeing right now is a little concerning because the offense apparently not looking good today.
Well, I mean, again, I'm not going to say it's not concerning. But on a level of 1 to 10, how concerned I am with the offense right now as we sit, it's about a 5-4 somewhere around there, because I haven't seen them in a game. I haven't seen them practice against someone else. Now, if we still have some of these problems that they're having, throwing interceptions, guys dropping passes, the offense not looking in sync from a passing standpoint, if that happens against Chicago, if that happens against Minnesota and New England, then we got a problem.
Yeah. Malik Willis, nice touch pass on a deep completion to Chris Moore for a touchdown. Took the top off the defense. That was a bright spot that just happened as they're in the 2-minute right now. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I always like watching the 2-minute because I feel like you can really learn something about a quarterback, especially, and how they command that.
Yeah, you have to have command of what you're doing on a 2-minute basis. And you got to know the 2-minute offense. You have to, because everything is just rapid fire. And you got to make sure all the guys are where they're supposed to be. Because you might, essentially you might have to flip the formation, but not necessarily flip it. Just flip the tight end, which means guys, y'all just stay in y'all places. The only person that's really moving is the tight end and the slot guy. So y'all got to be able to know what to do on both sides, regardless of if you're to the strong side or not. So the quarterbacks have to know everything that's going on during the 2-minute drill. And from what you said, Malik, threw a deep pass, touchdown pass to Chris Moore. Malik has done well during 2-minute drives this camp thus far. So I just want to see it game-type situations with him and Will Levis.
Yeah, so do I. So we will see if we get a little more insight before the game on who's going to play. I highly doubt it because that's how Vrabel likes to play things. Or Terrell Williams.
Well, y'all are asking the wrong person. Yes, Terrell Williams.
Yeah.
You need to ask
Coach
head Coach Williams. You need to ask him what's the game plan.
And I think that's going to be cool.
Yeah.
That he's getting that opportunity.
Oh,
so
of course.
I really like that Vrabel is doing that. That's going to do it for me, but don't go anywhere. Caroline, Willie, and D-Mace coming up next. Unfortunately, they won't be at camp today, but they'll be breaking things down and see what news comes out of it, after practice is over, as Malik Willis seems to be the best of the quarterbacks right now today, but they will break all that down. Coming up next here on 102.5, 106.3, The Game.
All the big plays.
And we are done.